Hey there, crewmates. Gabe from Nexus Core here with another One Piece card game video. Finally, as of today, I am going to start doing my usual going over of all of the card reveals from the most recent sets, One Piece Set 3, Pillars of Strength. This is, as of, I believe, today or sometime this week, available in Japan, and we should be expecting it in the West, I believe, around June or July. So as usual, I'm going to take each video color by color, spreading out the content throughout the week so we can all go over these cards together. As usual, if you haven't seen these videos of mine before, I haven't read most of these cards, and most of the cards I've only read once. I like to kind of go in as fresh as I can so we can go over them together, and if I wind up being incredibly wrong, I can have video evidence that you can use to make fun of me in the future. So, without further ado, I like to thank OnePieceCardGame.dev for providing these translations as well as English images for everybody. So, with that, we will just get started. So, our mono red leader from the set is going to be Porcus D Ace, who is our usual mono leader of 5/5, whose effect is when this leader attacks or is being attacked, you may trash any number of event or stage cards from your hand. For each card you trashed, this leader gets plus 1,000 during this battle. That's immediately very interesting, and it already sets it apart from red because instead of being very hyper aggro character centric, it's gonna be event slash stage centric as well as leader focused because it only works on itself. However, the fact that it can be used both offensively and defensively is really, really good. And the fact that you can use it defensively but it doesn't have a cost attached means that you can go full in, use all of your Dawn on your turn by playing characters, activating events, and so on, and then just discard any excess events that you couldn't activate because you're out of Dawn. I think this is actually very interesting and can lead to some unique builds. As well, I forgot to mention, it is a Whitebeard pirate, so you can use support from the previous set. So I like that it's both a unique build within red, but offers a very clear diverging path from previous Whitebeard support we've seen. So I think that's very, very cool. And I'm not sure if this is the leader for me, but I think it's a solid leader, and I just appreciate how different it is from what we've seen thus far. Next, we have Audio, who is from One Piece Odyssey, the recent video game, who is a 4/5 with counter 1,000. Dawn 1, when attacking, your opponent cannot activate blockers of characters with 2,000 power or less during this battle, so it's kind of like a smaller Shanks. I think this is okay. I honestly doubt it will see play. It's a okay stat line, but the problem is in red when once you're at 4, you're going to want your big impact cards and your rushers as well. This isn't a Straw Hat or a one cost or a Whitebeard pirate, so you don't really have that type synergy. So I don't think this will see all that play, at least right now. Next, we have Izo, who is a 1/2 counter 1,000 Land of Wano card and a Whitebeard pirate, whose effect is on play, check top 5 for a Whitebeard other than itself, add it to hand, bottom of deck the rest. So it is your standard Nami clone that we expect to see. So it is automatically a 4 of. This is fantastic. Whitebeard was already kind of missing it in set 2. So this is very much going to be a 4 of, and probably in both builds. Next, we have Curiel, who is a 3/4 counter 1,000 Whitebeard pirate. This character cannot attack the leader the turn in which it is placed, and Dawn 1, it gets Rush. I actually don't think that is that bad. Being able to hit characters with Rush is pretty good on its face. It's a 3/5 that can attack characters, which means with that Dawn, it does contest Zoro, but at the same time, while it doesn't have counter, Zoro is a 3/5 that doesn't have the can't attack leader stipulation. So I don't think this is terrible. I just don't think it's going to see that much play. Next, we have Thatch, who is a 1/2 counter 1,000. Active during the main phase once per turn. You can give this character 2,000 power, then place it in the trash during your turn. Um, I'm unimpressed. It's it's going to be a firm -1, and it does only become 4K, though funnily enough, because it becomes 4 off of itself, it might actually see play in Zoro, because the Zoro leader would make it a 5 that can hit leaders by itself. The self-trashing does kind of suck, but being a 1 cost does slot it into that 1 cost Zoro build, so I'm gonna say not great, but the inverse of Curiel. I wouldn't be surprised if it saw play, but I don't think it's that great. Next, we have a Whitebeard Vanilla, who's Speed Jill, 4-6 counter 1000. Same with Namule, 3-5 counter 1000. They're your usual vanilla stat lines, but for Whitebeard, so nothing really to comment on there. Next, we have Buggy, who I really like the art they chose for this man. It's pretty menacing for this absolute loser. So, a Buggy is a Buggy Pirate, 1-3, no counter. This character cannot be KO'd when battling slash attribute characters and leaders. That's already worth noting because all of the cards like the SR Luffy that can't be KO'd by strikers, they only work on characters. The fact that even a leader can't take this down if it's a slasher is actually worth noting. I don't know offhand how many slash leaders there are besides Zoro, but that's actually pretty impactful, I would say. As well, its actual effect that we're here for is on place check top 5, add a red event to your hand, bottom of deck the rest. Fantastic. Really nothing to say. I'm surprised it's only an uncommon. When Actually, I'm not that surprised because all the archetype searchers they can add events already, and this one can only add events and not characters. So this is, I think, really good though, especially with the ace build because of how event centered it'll be. You'll likely be running a lot of events anyways, so being able to just go that firm +1 on a decent stat line too. Only 2 Dawn gets him to that 5k range, so this is a very solid card. Next is Hirata, 2-3, counter 1000, Whitebeard Pirate type. Active during the main phase once per turn. Give up to 1 rested Dawn to your leader or character. I think this is pretty good, primarily because it is a Whitebeard card. I think this really does help the ace build because it seems very leader centered. It has that 3k stat line, so I do think this is likely to see play and is worth considering at the very least because fortunately it does have the counter stat line as well, even though it's only counter 1000. So I think this is another pretty decent card. Next, we have Fossa, 2-2 counter 1000, blocker, good. It's a low cost blocker that is searchable off of Ezo thanks to being a Whitebeard. So this is already a good card that is almost definitely going to see play for that alone. Next, we have Flamenco, who is 2 cost 3k, strike attribute, counter 1000, Whitebeard Pirate type. Dawn 1 on attack, give up to one of your opponent's characters, minus 2000 power during this turn. I'm kind of unimpressed by this, partially because it's very, very slow. Yes, it's reusable because it's on attack, but you can just attack into this, which means you're only going to get 1 use out of it. I'd prefer on-place effects like Tama, who also, again, has a 2k counter, or the Law promo from the Uta pack, because it has a bigger stat line. So I'm largely unimpressed because it's on attack as opposed to on place. Next, we have Marshall D. Teach, who's a Whitebeard Pirate type. 4 cost 6k strike attribute. On attack, you may trash a red character with 4k power or more. Draw 1, it gets 1k. I actually don't think this is that bad. I'm really unsure of how to evaluate this. First off, it is a break even in terms of raw advantage. Yes, you need to have 4k power or more, but you aren't actually losing hand size provided you do. As well, it makes it a 7k, which does hit numbers on your opponent's leader, meaning they'll either need to use a 2 or higher cost event or need to use multiple cards to block it. So I actually think this is pretty decent, and it does have that Whitebeard typing, so it's searchable off of Ezo. Next, our first super rare for the set is Marco. Beautiful art. Love the popping out of the frame effect that's happening. Who is a 5 cost 6k strike attribute Whitebeard Pirate type, counter 1000. Your turn on play, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 3k or less. Already pretty good. You get to hit something low cost for free. And on KO, you may trash an event to play it from trash as rest. So it's also self-recurable. It depends really on how many events we see play, but the fact that it is a it is a on-place KO with a good stat line because it's 6k, that can bring itself back provided you have the events, does make this very, very good. Next, we have Garp in his youth, who is a 3 cost 5k strike attribute Navy type. on attack, play up to one red character with a cost of 1 from your hand. That's pretty interesting. I don't think it'll see play though. I think as of now, the Zoro 1 cost turbo deck is just too tight for space, and being a 3 cost does kind of hurt that. I think it's a decent stat line, but it's just a bit slow because it's on attack as well. You're only saving 1 Dawn because it has to be a cost of 1, so you're really not even getting that much out of it. Unless you're really, really starved for Dawn, but because I doubt you will be, considering it's a 1 cost turbo deck, I doubt this will see play. But it might see play in the red black Garp deck because it is Navy type, and I believe there are some 1 cost red cards that still see play anyways, so maybe in that build, but I'm largely unimpressed. Next, we have our last character, who is Lim. 3 cost 2k wisdom attribute, no counter, Odyssey typing like audio, who is a blocker, and during your opponent's turn, when this card is KO'd, give minus 2k power up to one of your opponent's leaders or characters. I actually think this is not terrible. I think it being a 3 cost is tough, but as we've seen, blockers tend to be 1 or 2 anyway, so having a blocker and functionally an on KO effect, this is what we should be expecting. Something like in blue Doflamingo, it's a 3 cost blocker that has the top 5 sculpting. There's also Miss All Sunday, who lets you add a event from your grave to your hand in the same set. So I'm not surprised that they gave her this 3 cost typing. I just think it's a bit unfortunate. However, being able to block 1 attack and it unnoticeably impact the efficacy of another attack, I do think is quite solid. So I think this is pretty decent card. Now, on to the events, which, as you can already see, we have plenty of for Ace, thankfully. So first off, we have Flame Emperor, which is a 7 cost event. So I think this is the most expensive event we've seen thus far. Before this, it was Brachio Bomber at 6, who it is also a Whitebeard Pirate type. So again, searchable off of Ezo and Buggy, fortunately. So you're definitely going to be seeing this pretty consistently. Its effect is during the main phase. If your leader is Ace, so despite being a Whitebeard pirate, you're not running it in Whitebeard. But if your leader is Ace, you can KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 8k power or less. Then your leader gets double attack and 3k, and trigger KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 6 power or less. This is fantastic. This is just an amazing card. Being able to hit a 8k power on its own is kind of insane. This is a 1 card out to 8 cost Kid, which I think is the first time we've ever seen it. 1 card that is able to out it as well. Most cards that cost 8 have 8k power or more, or 8k power rather, will have a high cost. So being able to hit it for 7 means you are winning on Dawn in that as well, because there are means of reducing cards' power, like with Tama or with other cards that we've seen thus far. It is potential that you can even get a card that has higher power, like the 10 drop Kuzan, or what is it, Kaido or Big Mom that we're about to find it. Being able to hit a wide breadth of cards is very, very good as well. Giving the leader double attack and 3k power is very, very impactful. As we've come to see, it makes Ace a 8k with double attack that can go even bigger with its own effect. And it also has a really good trigger effect. Its trigger effect is just Jet Pistol. So this is a genuinely phenomenal card, and it's almost definitely going to be a 4 for Ace. Next, we have Fire Fist, who is... Oh, sorry, no, I'm out of order. Next is Crossfire, which is a 2 cost Whitebeard event. Main or counter. I believe this is the first one we've seen, actually, that is you can use on either turn. If your leader is a Whitebeard type, so you can use it in both Whitebeard and Ace. Give up to one of your opponent's characters minus 4k, trigger activate its main effect. So I think this is very good because functionally it does have that minus 4k for 2 that we should be expecting, but because it gives minus 4k, you can hurt a card that would restand, like a Basil Hawkins or the Kid Leader. So potentially being able to stop 2 attacks with it is already quite impactful. So I think this is very good, but also being able to use it proactively to make sure you kill something is very good. I mean, this plus Flame Emperor means you can hit cards that have 12k base, it costs you 9 Dawn, yeah, but this is the only time we've seen that you could actually auto kill cards that cost that 10, which is kind of amazing unto itself. So I think this is another very solid card. Now we have Fire Fist, which is a 3-cost Whitebeard Pirate event. Main, discard one event, KO up to one of your opponent's characters with 5 power or less, and up to one of your opponent's characters with 4 power or less, and trigger K up to one of your opponent's characters with 5 power or less. I think this is another pretty good card. Yes, it is a 2-for-2 because you have to discard an event on top of this, but being able to defeat 2 cards with solid stat lines for 3 cost and that discard, I do think makes this pretty good and worth considering. At the very least, it's another um event that you can just discard off of the ace leader, which is another thing that I think I forgot to mention, but we need to be looking at in terms of the ace leader is the ace leader also turns all events into 1k counters whether or not you pay the Dawn, because you can just trash it for the defense, which makes this very, very solid. And I believe this is the first time we've gotten a alt art for a event, and I actually really like this one. I love how they drew the fire. I love the pose. I love the lighting, the deep red and orange go down and the dark blue up above. I think this is just a beautiful alt art. Next, we have our last event, which is Fiery Doll. 2 cost Whitebeard Pirate. Main, your leader gets 4k. Trigger, give up to one of your opponent's leaders or characters minus 1000. I think this is kind of to be honest. The power isn't unsubstantial, but I think there's plenty of ways you can power up already, and it is costing you 2 Dawn to do so. And because it costs, you only need two powered up. I don't think it's really worth the slot other than just more events to discard, but I just feel like there's plenty of good red events that are worth running. Like, let me double check, but Ace says it just needs to be an event or a stage. You could just run Jet Pistol, so this is certainly a common card that I just don't think is necessary. And lastly, once again, we are getting a stage card. Very glad that we're still getting more stages because we never got them in set 1. It took until set 2 to keep that going. So first we have Striker, which is a 1-cost stage, so you can bring this out turn 1, which is already very nice on its face. Active during the main phase, you can pay 2. You may rest this stage. If your leader is Ace, check top 5 for 1 event card, add it to your hand, and then bottom deck the rest. So it's kind of like Buggy as a stage. This is very, very good. It's just added consistency. Um, I don't know how much play this will see because A, Buggy exists, and B, it's 2 every turn to go +1, and while it is recurable, and it gives you something to do if you have 2 open Dawn. 2 is not unsubstantial, especially when things like Flame Emperor exist, and because you can only run 1 stage, I feel like with the amount of Whitebeard Pirates there are, you're going to want something like Moby Dick for the late game, but since Ace's effect lets you discard excess stages as well as events, you could easily run this and Moby Dick in the same deck, so I wouldn't be surprised if you do end up running both. But with that all out of the way, I think this kind of wraps it up. I think this is really neat. I think the red deck is very interesting on its face. My only real disappointment is everything is just for Whitebeard Pirates. There's no real tools for other red decks. There's no Straw Hats here. There's no um the only 1-cost support card is Garp, which I don't think you're going to be running. Technically, you can run Buggy, but in Zoro and Luffy, I just doubt you will because you don't have the heavy event focus. But because it's a 1-cost 3k, honestly, maybe you will. In Zoro, I wouldn't. That's the thing I would be the least surprised by. There is also Thatch, as I mentioned previously, but you just can't run Flame Emperor in Zoro because you need that ace leader. You don't really need Crossfire or any of the events for it either, so I don't think there's much toys here outside of just Ace and Whitebeard, and I wish some of the older decks got at least 1 or 2 new toys beyond the potential of Buggy. But again, I very well might be wrong, happens a lot. Let me know what you think. Let me know how excited you are in the comments below about the Ace deck. Thank you once again to One Piece cardgame.dev for providing all of these translations. And with all of that done, I'll see you in the next video.